Hi folks, it's John from lastchanceautorestore.com. I'd like to share with you an update. This is the Factory 5 Racing Cobra. This is a Mark III. In an earlier video we had it in the trailer, and then we had here in the shop when we were talking about some of the things in the front suspension and control arms. And then we basically did a full inspection, and we're making some tweaking or some improvements. So we're obviously at the back of the car. We have the fuel tank removed, so we're going to make some improvements. So basically, without boring you too much, we had mentioned when we had it in the trailer, we weren't very impressed with the way things were wired. So now you can kind of see things a little bit easier. So just the way they've done some of this wiring, especially over here going up to the tail lights. We've got these quick connects and just crimped on stuff. So not very tidy and neat up there, but it's good that we removed the tank, because you can see we have one of the lines here coming up through, and it was scrubbing and rubbing on the frame, and obviously we have exposed wires through there. So hopefully that comes up in the camera. So that's been working for a while, scrubbing back and forth. So it's very common when wiring isn't tied up properly and not in proper loom. You got some of the hard plastic loom here, but when you have these silly little things, we just don't like that. We would rather have all of them properly fastened, shrink wrap on them, and then tidied up. So same thing on this driver's side. When you see back in here where you've got all these crimps, and you got some tape, but not a lot. So we just don't really like the look of that at all, the way it's kind of clustered there. So the guys will clean that up and freshen it up. So we have the fuel tank down, as I mentioned earlier, and then we got a couple of surprises. So the way they typically suggest you use a donor Mustang, and you've got a fuel tank, which we have over on the bench there. So something has happened on this one side for the fuel tank strap. So on the Mustang donors, you have two different dimensions for the straps for the fuel tank. On the driver's side is larger, a deeper pocket than on the passenger side. And you can see, hopefully it'll come up in the camera. So somebody's done some modification work to this rail, and hopefully you can see up in here. So they've cut out that piece of 1-inch square tubing. So hopefully you can see in here, there's a big hole. So what they did is they cut it out of that hole, moved it over, and then kind of tack welded, but there's not a whole lot holding this on. And you can see where they didn't have it clean because you got a bunch of MIG wire poking through. And then they cut this bottom piece off with a sharp edge, and then they kind of bubblegum welded this bracket on. So it looks like they had the wrong bracket. So at one point something went wrong, and then whoever tried to do the repair basically cut this bracket off, moved it up here for a different shape of strap, and then kind of tack welded it. But this is actually probably worse than what happened before when the strap let go. So it's good that we're in here, because when you see things like that, you want to make sure the car is safe and they don't have any issues. So obviously we're going to resolve this. We'll remove this, and we'll make a proper bracket for it, so when the straps come up, it's going to fasten properly and safely. So we've ordered some new straps, the correct ones. The reason why we have the fuel tank down, this is a less expensive way on whoever built it originally, this Mark III Factory 5 car. They basically have a lot going on. They've got a whole bunch of fuel lines and fittings going around. There's you've got a fuel pump way in the back there, and then a bunch of these silly little connectors that are just squeezed together. And then above the tank, we didn't like all the different wires and stuff going on. So what we're going to do, because this is a 5-liter fuel-injected engine with a supercharger, we're going to bump up. So instead of being everything stock, we're going to bump everything up. So in the next video, we'll share with you, we have an upgraded fuel pump. We also have the fuel hanger that goes inside the tank with larger fittings. because they had reduced everything down to almost a quarter, and in some of the elbows less than a quarter inch of fuel line to supply this engine, so it's not enough fuel. The injectors are too small. So basically we're improving the fuel system. So we knew going in we were going to drop the tank and we're going to deal with the wiring. We talked to our client about doing this correctly, so we're going to just kind of tidy up what they've done, improve it, just make it a little bit safer. So we'll deal with the fuel tank bracket, we'll deal with the fuel system and return line, so we'll make all that safer. We'll deal with all the wiring here, and then in the next video we'll share with you what we're doing with the improvement with the tank, so there's less restriction overall. It'll be a happier engine. So just a brief little update. This is the Factory 5 Racing Cobra. It's a Mark III series, and I'm John from lastchanceautorestore.com.